So these are the stages for bias binding. This is stage 1, where you have the actual strip and you cut the bias strip, the first part. You can cut a number of strips and join. The longer the strip, the better. But this is just for the purposes of demonstration. So this is stage 1. You cut it. It's like you having a fabric like this. This way doesn't stretch. That way doesn't stretch. But once you turn it on a 45-degree angle, you have this natural stretch that's in the fabric, right? So we cut those diagonals, and that's where we have this. So this is the first stage of bias binding. Then the second stage is when you have completed putting them, or you have the need to put two of them together or join. Then you join them this way. Stage 2 is how to join. You match them right sides to right side, and then you stitch across. You make sure you slide it so that there's an ear appearing here and an ear appearing here, which we cut off already. And then you press it nicely and you have stage 2, okay? Stage 3 is the fun part. Because it's a number of steps, we want to take time to show you so it's not overwhelming. All right, in stage 3, you've attached the bias. You've attached the bias binding. Okay, this is the look of the finished look. But I'm going to take the pins out and show you how we get it ready for basting and then the final sewing. So this is your bias binding. You attach it and stitch. So you can see it's been stitched over here. This is the wrong side. This is the right side of the bias binding. All right. Now we take the binding. Of course, we would snip if you need to, okay? The bias binding loves to remain straight. Meanwhile, the neckline loves to remain round. But because the bias has a stretch in it, we use that to navigate this round neckline. And so we bend it over to hit the seam allowance, and then we roll it this way. You want to roll it down in such a way that when you pin, it is below, the pinning is below the bias binding, like this. The pinning must be below the bias binding. You see where the pin is. It's holding down the wrong side or the back. This is how we can secure the back and the front at the same time. So you don't put it on to the seam line. You roll it further than the seam line and you pin at that point. And then you check the back to make sure that the pin is below. The pin should not be sitting on the bias binding. Again, we continue, we fold and pin at the very base, like that. And then you check and see there's a distance between, because at the end of the day, we're going to stitch here inside the ditch. This is called stitching in the ditch. And we finish our pinning here. But you cannot sew stitching in the ditch with pins in there. So we bring our needle and thread, or we thread a needle. Lower this thing a little bit. We thread a needle, and where we had the pins, we replace with our needle and thread. So this is a temporary stitch. This is basting. When we're done, we take it out. We take the pins out and we're replacing it with basting. Now, when you look on the other side, again, it gives you the exact same effect that the pins were giving you. You want to make sure that you are below the bias binding itself. I'm just doing a couple at a time to make it faster. You see, always below. And go like that. And pull. And come here. And we pull. And then you finish it and you cut out. Now this pink thread is, needle and thread is for the basting. It's not a permanent stitch. It is. But look how cool. Look how cool the bias looks. And this is only basted. And then the last step will be you going to the machine and stitching in the ditch really close to where the blue is. Underneath it, literally. Okay, but this is stage 3. Stage 4 will be the complete thing. And I'll show you that in another video.